next session is a series of short presentations. We'd like to thank the teachers and school nurses that have given up their time to come and present. They're going to tell us about some real life experience in the classroom working with kids and some of their experiences, the programs they're running and the challenges and successes that they've had. We've asked each speaker to speak for 8 minutes and we'll be quite tight on the time, so Jackie will give a little gong at about 5 minutes. We should have time for some quick questions at the end of each. However, if we need to talk more, I'm sure the presenters will be around at lunchtime to be able to share. So our first presenter is Rebecca Whiteley, and Rebecca's going to talk about protective behaviour as a whole school approach. Rebecca comes from Riverside Education Support Centre.
Good morning everybody, my name is Rebecca Whiteley. I am a classroom teacher at Riverside Education Support Centre in Mandurah, and myself and my colleague Alison Williams are here today. We are a teacher development school in Mandurah in the area of protective behaviours, protective education. So here today just to have a little bit of a chat to you about what we do at our school, how it looks at our school, and what we have developed to become a teacher development school. So we've been a teacher development school for the last 2 years, and we were an MSSD school prior to that, and we created a digital monitoring tool for the area of protective behaviours. So when we look at protective education, the first thing that we always look at is the statistics about teaching protective education. So when we look at some of these statistics, we look at how 96% of abuse is by someone that is known and trusted. We look at how, I'm going to have to apologise right now because I actually forgot my glasses. Can't read any of these slides. Just give me 1 second. Thank you. Not nervous enough? Just make sure I just want Yes, when you talk about early warning signs, I sat through the last presentation going, oh my God, why am I doing this? Why is this me? Alright, so what... I do apologise, I just quickly will jump into this. No? Okay, sorry about that. Let's start. So as I said, 96% of children are abused by someone that is known and trusted to them. 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 7 boys is sexually abused in Australia before they reach the age of 18. 6,973 children were sexually abused in Australia in the year of 2014-2015. That a child with a disability is 3.4 times more likely to be sexually abused than a mainstream child. And the average age of a student who is exposed to pornography is 11. So when we look at some of those statistics, we can see why protective education is so important in the department at this point in time and why we should all be teaching protective education. So when we look at the aims of protective behaviours, it's to strengthen the resiliency of our children as they grow and develop. It's about focusing on giving children those skills to protect themselves from abusive situations and encouraging them to build and develop support networks around them of people that they trust and who they can talk to. So how we run protective behaviours at Riverside is it is taught explicitly by the classroom teacher not by a support teacher or a dot teacher or the teacher that works 1 day a week, but by the classroom teacher. And then that way it takes away that taboo of it's only this subject that is talked about when this teacher comes into this classroom. We make sure that the posters and the colours are visible throughout the classroom, and we incorporate it into all learning areas, whether it be into our artwork, for our theme, whether it be in our cushions, in our reading corners. We make sure it is nice and colourful, nice and visible throughout the entire school. And we make sure that we explicitly teach protected behaviours at least once a week. The language of protected behaviours is used by all teachers across all levels in all learning environments, but we do explicitly teach one lesson of one topic of protected behaviours at least once a week. Now, as I said, it's embedded across the curriculum, so we bring it into our English, we bring it into our HASS, we bring it into our science, we bring it into our sport, we bring it into our recess and our lunch times, we bring it across our entire curriculum. When we look at protected behaviours, we also make sure that we give the students real life situations and allow them to speak about those real life situations, and we make sure that it's not just a lesson on a piece of paper, that they actually get to experience their early warning signs. They get to experience feeling safe and unsafe. They get to experience what it would be like to be in those situations, so they get to relate to that feeling at that point in time and understand that feeling or the way that their body changes. So, for example, the picture in the bottom right-hand corner with the 4 coloured circles was completed by our kindy pre-primary class. They had worked on what we call our purple circle, so ourselves. They'd worked on their family, they'd worked on their friends, and they'd learnt about strangers. And they had a sorting activity, so themselves, their mum, their dad, teachers and friends in their classroom, and then just people out of magazines. The bald man that's currently in the yellow circle is actually our principal. When one of our students did this activity, our principal was put into his red circle. So our kindergarten primary teacher marched the entire class down and said to our principal, "This isn't good enough, stop sending emails and get down to the classroom." So we make sure that the students are aware of who's around them and who they can trust and who they can talk to, not just the figment of our principal sitting in the office. Thank you. We have developed a scope and sequence tool, so a digital monitoring tool that links to SCASA, links to ACARA. It has the strands and the strands all listed, and you can use this document to report on the skills for whole class or individual students as they move through the protected behaviours program. It shows independence, it shows those students that require a visual prompt, a verbal prompt, a physical prompt, and it also allows to see that development for those less able students who used to be able to do it with a physical prompt and now can do it with just a visual prompt or a verbal prompt. So you're able to still see child development across the stages of learning for those less able students. And whole class data. The information it holds is straight from the department's resources, so the protected behaviours resources that you find online, the Exploring Specialised Synthesising Skills, the Aboriginal packages, the Education Support packages, all that information is found in our documents. What we offer at our school, as a TDS school, is a comprehensive look at each of the key themes of protected behaviours. We offer one-day PDs that are engaging and interactive and not just talk about the students, but also get you experiencing your early warning signs and get you experiencing how you might feel in safe, unsafe situations, how you might risk on purpose as an adult. We have a Connect community that has well over 400 members at this point in time who share and upload their own lessons and activities that they've developed instead of constantly recreating that wheel. We look at cross-curricular applications in the classroom environment, so we're not just focusing on protected behaviours, we're focusing on the whole curriculum. Our next professional learning is next Friday. You actually do have a pamphlet for this inside of your packages. and that's going to be at Riverside next Friday on the 8th of September. But Elsa and I also have been very, very lucky in our role as DDS coordinators to go out into the community and come to you instead, so we can present to whole staff. And we've been very lucky in the fact that we've travelled around, Broome and Geraldton and Kalgoorlie, and we've gone out to many schools and done whole school professional learning in the area of protective education as well. Does anybody have any questions? I think my time's almost up. No? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. That was great. Very nicely presented. Some fantastic ideas. Okay, our next presenter, I think this is going to be a double session. So we have some school nurse stories from the field. We've got Chris Dillon and also Nicola Coleman from the Child and Adolescent Community Health. So if I just get Chris going.
Good morning. Thank you very much for inviting us here today. We've heard many presenters talk about the role of the community health nurse. So our stories from the field is really to expand on that. We're here to sell ourselves and just to remind you of our role. My name's Nicola Coleman. I'm currently acting as nurse educator, but I've got 13 years experience working in high needs high schools and primary schools. And here is...
Hello, I'm Chris Dillon. I'm a clinical nurse in community health, and I have been working with a variety of schools across the metro area for 9 years now.
I just want to give a shout out. We also supply community health nurses in our education support schools as well. So I didn't know whether you were aware, but we have 110 high school nurses in the North Zone and about 100 in the South Zone. And as part of our Department of Health policy of embedding cultural awareness, we would like to acknowledge our traditional owners. The word beginning with W there is pronounced Wajak, and the N word is pronounced Noongar. And if we could all say that together just now, please. We respectfully acknowledge the past and present traditional owners of this land on which we are meeting, the Wajak Noongar people. It is a privilege to be standing on Wajak Noongar country. Thank you. So what are our learning objectives for today? So hopefully at the end of our presentation, you'll be aware that all public schools in the metropolitan area have an allocation of FTE of community health nurses. So the Department of Health and Department of Education actually have a memorandum of understanding to be able to work together, and every year your school nurses will review and redo the school level agreement focusing on the needs. So your community health nurse might work across several different schools. They'll also work collaboratively with other school nurses to put presentations together. We're basically there to support you, so I really want you to be aware of our ability to complement the curriculum in delivering sexual health and relationships training within your classrooms. Hope that you will be inspired to work in partnership with your community health nurse. And also we're there to offer the students another support person, like we've heard with protective behaviours, a safe adult that they can go to. And as the keynote speaker Jenny said, students and adolescents especially, they're more interested in the feelings and the emotions and love rather than just the biology. So we're another safe person that can offer them that safe space. Obviously we have limits of confidentiality, but we don't need to have permission from parents or carers for those students to access us. We also have specific training to be proactive, especially dealing with mental health issues. So things like the HEADS training, which is a psychosocial assessment, and gatekeeper training, which is around suicide risk And again, we've got training to recognise and then refer them on and then reflect. I'll keep the questions to the end.
On
if
this
that's
point
all right.
statement, can I say that there are nurses assigned to every school in the country as well as the metropolitan area?
Excellent point, yes, and I should have known that talking to you at morning tea. So just to clarify that, it's actually across the whole state. Yes, brilliant. And that we're guest presenters, but you as the teachers still have the duty of care to remain in the room at all times.
So very often we are requested to come in to the classroom either for one-off sessions or for a series of SRE sessions in conjunction with the teacher. The example up there is please can you come and give us a condom demonstration because the high school students were all like, I was taking it, can you do that? Following that sort of a request, or any request to come into the classroom, we obviously need to clarify what the outcomes and expectations of the lesson are from the teacher, according to the DOE curriculum. Can you hear me? No?
It's on. It's on. It's on.
Is it on? It's on? Stand close, is that better? Yeah? Okay. So according to the DOE curriculum, and we very often do use the GDHR resources, they are very good. It needs to be a dynamic and engaging presentation. It needs to be tailored according to the class needs. Whether in the instance of my example, I was invited into an all-male Year 9 class because I'm going to talk about the Year 12 all-male Aboriginal class that she was invited into. It's important to know your community if it's not your allocated school, particularly with reference to culturally appropriate local trends and what's happening at the moment. I'm also interested in numeracy. And as nurses, we always go in and try and establish the therapeutic relationship and the ongoing referrals that we are there, we are available, our service is confidential, that when we are, when we're there, how students can actually access us. And we have slightly different rules than some of the other school staff, in that we do have ensure minor confidentiality, so students don't necessarily have to, their parents aren't informed of what they come to talk to us about unless their safety is implicated, which is a very important thing for students to actually have that knowledge.
Okay, so looking at tailoring the style to your community, I know there's many teachers in the room here, so I'm not here to teach you to suck eggs, but just to make you aware that we are aware of the different learning needs, so using the VAC, but also then using age appropriate, so YouTube of course is very important, we know, with adolescents, and in certain communities there will be different trends and roles. And obviously taking into account the culture, so I'm going to talk about the work that I was invited to do with the Clontarf Aboriginal Football Academy that was embedded in a high school that I was working in. But also, as someone said earlier, we're in a multicultural society. I think most schools have at least, a few different cultures in, so we really need to be aware of that. But also, is there any information that we need to omit? For instance, if you're going into a Catholic school or a Muslim school, there might be other areas that you need to adjust or tailor that information. We also build upon that therapeutic relationship that we've made with students. So, for instance, a high school I'm working at the moment, I've had disclosures from students that I went to do their puberty talks in year 6 the previous year. And it's because they'd already seen me and felt that I was approachable, that they could then come and talk to me in year 7. So seeing our role across that whole spectrum, and obviously always being flexible and having at least one, if not 2, different backup plans. I'll just get Chris to tell you a little bit about her table display here.
Right. As talking points, we started a couple of years ago taking in the whole crew. I'm not here. This is a very simple selection. The rest of them are all actually working today. But they couldn't get relief. We do have a large group of adults that we take in. They're multicultural. We've got everybody from Princess Jasmine, I think, to boy bands. We try and ensure that we have got some gender neutral, some transgender talking points. Also, we can talk to gender stereotypes, we can talk to sexuality, we can talk to illustration, we can help students to maintain confidentiality, by talking about situations with representation rather than talking about people, which we found has been actually a very useful tool.
Okay, so as you know, when going in and delivering sexual health and relationships education, whatever can go wrong, will absolutely go wrong. So I've always said it's really important, yes, it's health education, health promotion, but it's also health entertainment. You've got to connect with your students and build that therapeutic relationship to be available to so that they can approach you afterwards. So I'll get Chris to talk about her specific class, and then I'll talk about mine.
Okay, so I was invited in for a series of talks in SRE to a very multicultural school in the metro area to deliver 5 sessions. And it was a class of 31 year 9 male boys. So 31 year 9 males. Last term of the day as well. So the first week's lesson, we established our group manners. That all went very well. Not a problem. And we talked about relationships. Now, in those relationships, boys had, I brought some examples of what they actually produced what they wanted, the values that they wanted in all relationships. Respect raised very highly, and communication raised very highly in that. The next week, we went back. The teacher did actually say they'd had a difficult day. The group dynamic, we wasn't sure what was going on, but there was an unusual group dynamic in the room. We went over the group manners before we started, and then we started. There was problems from the beginning. Very disruptive, lots of sabotage going on. We were talking about sexuality, gender and identity, which is obviously a lot of the students found quite confrontational. We did actually stop to go back to the group manners, to go back to the values that they had said they wanted in all relationships, and then we tried to continue. And there was lots of inappropriate comments. We started to get some physical intimidation, so stopped it. Stopped the session again and said, actually, go back to the group manners. This is no longer a safe space. So I'm going to leave now because it's not safe for me. I'm not feeling much respect. And as guest presenter, I was able to do that. Never done it before in my 9 years. So I did. I said to the boys, look, you can talk to your teacher and you can let me know whether you want me to come back again. Silence. Absolute silence. I left. And I went back for the next session. In the meantime, I got the teacher and got them to write down one question that they wanted asked, answered. And I've actually brought the questions with me today. They were very, very astute. And I went back the next session, and it went very, very well. There was 30 of them this time, but it did go well. We actually had a big discussion about sex and law. We had a very interesting discussion about porn. Not all the students have actually seen porn. Not all of them want to see porn, and some of them are quite disturbed by what they've seen. But, as we said, when all else fails, either humour or different attitude might work, and you can sort it out later.
Thank you, Chris. So talking about my example, I've been asked to go in and try and educate some Year 12 Aboriginal boys, but I prefer to call them men, with their life experiences. They had, they'd seen life, and some of them were already fathers but still attending school. So I went into the classroom and initially I was asked, could you just go over how to use a condom because they're not using them, there's unwanted pregnancies, there's STIs running rampant. So in I went, and I had spoken to them in Year 9 to do their condom demonstration. I'd been in for a lot of other health education and built that rapport initially by sort of, having their barbecue breakfast with them after they had a win at the games, having cups of tea and coffee with them at recess time, just to build that relationship so that they could suss me out and see, is this someone we want to invite in, because we have to be invited in. Anyway, so as soon as it was obvious what we were going to do, the alpha male, of course, stands up and starts to try and take over the show. So I had to think on my feet, think really quickly, how can I turn this around and get this class engaged? So I stuck 2 phalluses down onto the table, and I just looked him in the eye and said, go on then, I'll race you, let's put the condom on. So I let him win, and then I said, so did you ask me about consent, what I was happy to do, what I wasn't happy to do? Are you only going to want to do it once with me, or do you want to do it several times? Did you check while we were having sex that I'm okay with everything going on? And of course, that just was like a massive icebreaker. Then we all sat down, we spoke about consent. So it was another way of getting in there, engaging, delivering that education, not being the teacher, but the teachers then being part of it so they could then follow up. And guess what? That went back week after week after week. So then we could do, quiet questions or curly questions. So again, I could see that the information I was sharing was authentic to their needs, and that my language and my delivery style was appropriate to them as well. And I'm really aware of the time. So managing group dynamics. And again, I think this is really great when you have had that experience working across different areas. But this is just a reminder again that your community health nurse is there to complement the curriculum, not to deliver it. That we have the partnership between DOE and DOH. And we're there as your community health nurses to hopefully build that therapeutic relationship with your students to improve their overall mental health. And child protection is our core business, and also to reduce youth suicide. So for the nurses in the room, just to remind you that there is a half-day group skills facilitation workshop, which is offered by Community Health from the Learning and Development team, and also that you can complete the new 2-day candid conversations, and I can see some nurses here in the room that have done that. That's a specific course teaching sexual health and relationships, where you actually get to do a presentation in a safe, nurturing environment with some of your colleagues. But basically, preparation is really, really important. And one of the things that I've learned over the years through colleagues is if you're going to go in, provide that anonymous box where they can either do a drawing or ask a question, depending on their literacy rates, of what they want to do, of what information they want to be covered, which backs up really what Chris has said as well. The teacher can go in and say, this is what they want, this is what's needed. You can go in as a community health nurse and go, great, I'm armed with the GDHR stuff. But if that's not what the students want to hear, it's just a waste of time. I think we've got 30 seconds for a very quick question. Yeah.
Sorry, I just want to say that somebody here, Louise, I knocked on her door over there last year, our health nurse. I'm a Year 10 teacher at Need Support Centre. And Louise and I, she's the nurse, I'm the teacher, we had an absolute hoot last year teaching our students, and they're very open to Louise. I have 3 support staff, so we all stayed in the room together, and we built that really trusting parent community. And I know some of the boys run up to Louise, hi Louise, hi Louise, and it's open doors. And also, what I must say, all I had in my cupboard upstairs was a lovely looking banana and black condoms. And Louise and other school nurses have a great range of resources that are very, very expensive. And some of the schools that you work in don't have the facility or the resources to buy what you need to actually have a very good teaching program. The other thing with autistic children and children with special needs, it's very important to observe them and see if their sensory prohibits them from putting on a condom. I think we had 13 students last year. One of those students couldn't deal with the sensory of actually putting on that condom. on to one of your lovely models over there, but the rest of the kids, we know that they can all put on a condom correctly, and we were able to modify so that they were able to do that. And the one who couldn't handle the touch, the feel of it, is still being monitored, and that information is going on to teachers and at home. So thank you to our wonderful community nurses.
Yeah. Jackie.
Can you do it in lunch break?
Lunch break?
If people want to stay for it, is that okay?
Yep, so the question was, in case you didn't hear, could we demonstrate the condom race? We will definitely do that at lunchtime.
The whole thing is to have some fun while you're learning.
Sorry, I forgot to put the final slide up there. There's contact details for myself and Chris, or indeed, hopefully, like you shared, get to know your own community health nurse. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Nicola and Chris. And it is fantastic to have some nurses come and talk about their experience, because all good health promoting schools should be involving the school nurse. And there's a whole range of different sorts of things, skills and resources that the school nurses offer. But most importantly, when they come into a classroom, then they build that rapport with the kids, and we do get boys then chasing the school nurse up. At another time we try and talk to them, so that's fantastic. Our next presentation is from Craig Steen from Maida Vale Primary School, and his presentation is entitled Walking Hand in Hand, a shared perspective on sexual education. Thanks, Craig.
Just a bit of background on the school that I come from. We're a school of about 390 students to the east of Perth, out towards the foothills on the way up to Kalamunda. We've got quite a naive and innocent bunch of students at our school. I come from a past courageous life as a high school phys ed teacher. For those of you in the room that still do that, hats off to you. I got out of that a little while ago. There's a certain amount of bravery you need to do that. But the sum total of our kids' worldly experience, they're quite white middle class, our school. They go to Bali probably once a year. That's about the sum total of their interactions with other cultures. And we just felt that as they're moving into high school, we needed to do something a little bit more for them. An interesting aside, so all the slides that I put together, the school logo and the hands right at the top, I've actually just started teaching just this term a year one design and technology unit. So our next lesson will probably be on embedding graphics in PowerPoint presentations. So we had some anecdotal evidence that our students were encountering a range of tricky issues once they got to high school. They were interacting with kids that they wouldn't get the opportunity to do so at our school. And we just felt we needed to equip them in a way that would, I guess, better prepare them when they got onto high school. So the school board came to myself and also to our Associate Principal, Karen Pinkard, who's nice enough to be here today in support, about something that we could perhaps do to help them in their move into high school. They also stressed that they would like, and we thought it was appropriate, that their caregivers be involved in the process as well. It's one thing just educating the child, them getting understanding, but then losing that when they get home. So we wanted it to be a more holistic approach, and that's where I guess the hand-in-hand approach came into it. We also felt, after hearing some great things that we know that the school nurse is doing, the presentation they've been giving to our Year 5 and 6 is whilst good and focusing on growth and development and puberty, which is incredibly important. There were some things that we thought were missing and lacking, and we wanted to, I guess, follow up and give other opportunities for that. So we came up with the idea of putting a workshop together. It's actually only just occurred. We ran 2 workshops in the last week, so it's actually still quite fresh and quite raw. Those of you that are phys ed teachers probably in the midst of athletic season. I'm mainly phys ed, so it's quite raw for me at the moment. Lots of sleepless nights, so it's been quite a busy period, but we've seen some good results, and I'll take you through that. But just in the planning, the precursor to it was a past participation by Carolyn in a program run over a number of years at her children's school. Carolyn, was up in Perth?
I I'm pretty sure it was back in Tasmania, to be honest.
Okay, yep, so Tasmania being the progressive state that they are, Carolyn, they were onto it perhaps a little bit before.
With all my cousins. We'll just clear the air now.
But Carolyn spoke to me early on this year about her positive memories of that. She had great experiences with that when she was growing up, and having the opportunity to share that with her children was really important, and she wanted to try and bring something like that to our school at Maidavale. We felt that to give it a little bit more credit, we looked to source an external provider. We did what you normally do when you're trying to source someone. You jump straight on Google and try and find the first thing that jumps off the page there, not knowing a great deal about who to go out and speak to. Since that time, we've met some great contacts, been introduced to some great people like Jackie and Mary Rose. Tell you what, Mary Rose, you'd like your office to move over to here, wouldn't you? I went out, you're building at Shenton Park, it's yeah, it's very nice here, But it's been a great opportunity to meet those people and understand the networks that are out there. But when we first started, we just didn't have that understanding of what was out there for us. And it wasn't until we jumped on and did a Google search. The first thing came up when I punched in Sex Ed Perth was the Sex Ed Rescue. Kath Atkinson. Is Kath here today? I haven't met Kath, no, I've just seen the name. But Kath was quite open up front. She said, look, it's not something that I'm looking at doing at the moment. But here's another contact we might pass you on to, and we were lucky enough to be put in contact with Christine herself from Red Ginger Services, and Christina's had her stall downstairs this morning, and Christina was really great. We told her what we had in mind, wanted to get the students and the parents together, and Christina was great in coming to facilitate that for us. So we sat down and worked out what we wanted to actually put in the workshop. So we sought out our two local secondary schools in Kalamunda Senior High School and Darling Range Sports College. And they gave us some things that their Year 7s and 8s are currently encountering when they come into high school. So that online safety, sexting, social changes they might experience. So friendship groups, the change that they experience from going from primary to secondary school and meeting new people, and then that respectful relationships that they have with their friendship groups, and also taking that further and talking to the parents and significant caregivers about that. So it's input from Christine on current sex trends among teens, and it was informed by existing community health resources that were out there. So we used the Talk Soon, Talk Often resource. Christina brought that to our attention, and we were lucky enough through Mary Rose and some other contacts to get our hands in some of those, and we were able to give them out to the parents when they attended the workshops. So the delivery, so these workshops that were around over the last 2 weeks, they were out of school hours to enable the parents to come. They are in the children's classrooms, so the Year 6 classrooms we felt was a familiar environment for them, so more likely to engage in conversation. That was the main thought behind the workshops. We wanted the kids to be talking to their parents and vice versa. It was that opportunity for some storytelling and that shared discovery. So the topics that Christina covered in her presentations were a life story, and that was a really great way to start. It broke the ice. The parents were able to share some stories about what was happening in their life when their child was born, where did their name come from, what was their backstory, and that sort of led into some further conversations around sexting and resilience and support. We gave some resources out, a lot of the resources that were downstairs we provided to parents, and it wasn't until we got some contacts and met some people that we got our hands on those. If you have time, Jack, you might come back to the video. There is a video on there that sort of encapsulates and shows what's happening at our workshops. So evaluation on the workshops, we had 25 students out of our 45 in Year 6 attend. We thought that was a little bit low, but chatting to Christina about what tends to happen out in community health and people coming to these things, she sort of certainly stressed to us that was quite a good turnout, so we took that and we're quite happy. So the people that completed a post-workshop evaluation, 74% reported an increase in their knowledge and awareness of youth sexual health, which was great, and 78% said they developed increased confidence, which I think for us was the most important thing, that they can then go and have that conversation with their child after those sessions. So some students completed the workshop evaluation at a slightly lower level. 81% agreed or strongly agreed they enjoyed the workshop, and 88% agreed or strongly agreed that they learned something important about themselves. So that was important for us, whether we go down the path of doing this again next time, and how successful it was for us. So just some verbal, it wasn't verbal, it was written on the evaluation sheets from the students. So they enjoyed connecting with their parents, talking about specific issues, learning new things, which is important for them. And then for the parents, covered a lot of areas that perhaps they hadn't thought about, and it made it a bit more comfortable for them to talk. It was certainly an open and inviting environment. So our own evaluation, we deemed it a success, and we'd like to continue it again next year. There was some resistance from some students and parents who are actually coming along. We got some feedback from the students that didn't attend, and parents as well. A lot of it was like I didn't feel comfortable in being in that environment. I preferred to do things my own way, so they weren't necessarily supportive of the school doing that. But 25 out of 45, so the majority think that it's something pretty positive. It's interesting hearing today a little bit earlier on about perhaps starting this conversation a little bit earlier, so that's something that we'll consider for next year, whether we do go younger again. It's only really just starting that discussion. Hopefully it will continue as they move on through their schooling, by facilitating that, making an environment where they can have those conversations with their parents. That's it. Thank you very much. If there's a little bit of time later on, we can get that bit of project, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thanks, Craig. Great presentation and really interesting program. Again, another really good example of health promoting schools involving parents as well as the broader school community. And it's 50%, just over 50% response rate for something like that's really good for people to come along. And you probably find that as it becomes an annual event, you get more and more people come along because people will hear about it and talk about it. That's fantastic.
The interesting part of that for people who are thinking about it, was we had a large group and then a very small group on the Saturday morning. So the larger group actually we felt as adults was a more comfortable, more supportive environment when there were more people than less. So the 21 workshop in the evening was to us had a lot more atmosphere than the 9 on the Saturday morning. So we've already considered that for next year. We'll put that into place. So a bigger group is probably more comfortable for parents.
That's great. And it's such an important time too, that transition from year 6 into high school. Very scary for a lot of kids, particularly a lot of our kids do come from quite tight little primary schools where they're quite insulated, so it's really good. Well done. Okay, our next presentation is entitled The Boys Club at Kensington Secondary School, and it's presented by Julia Johns and Blake Holloway.
Good morning everyone, my name is Julia Johns and this is Blake Holloway. I'm a classroom teacher at Kensington Secondary School, and last year Blake here was my education assistant and we had the senior class at Kensington. We had a few issues at the beginning of the year and just felt there was a real gap in our health program. Outside in the yard we had students who were having trouble engaging with others, there were disagreements, there was some sexualised behaviour and just all of those sort of issues that arise when you're working in a high school, let alone in a high school with kids with a disability. So we kind of came together and thought, right, we need to do something about this and let's start up a program. So what we decided is that Blake and I would sit down together and discuss what it is we wanted to get across in each session. And I actually didn't go to any of the boys' club, it was the boys only zone, and I took the girls and we had girls' club. So the real aim of the boys' club was to create a really safe space and just build that repertoire with the boys so they really felt open to taking on new information and sharing stories and all those sorts of things. So Blake was wonderful in building up that relationship with the students and really getting into the nitty-gritty. But the aim was to educate the boys around the world around them and to give them information, that really important information to help make really positive and good decisions. So the concepts covered there was a whole range that we covered. Not only did we just go through labelling body parts, we went all the way through to safe sex practices. And we looked at really a varied way of teaching these. Like there was such a wide range of boys, and there was a lot of boys in one classroom that we had to really think outside the square.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks very much, Jules. As you can see on the slides just behind us, we did try to take a little bit of a twist and a little bit more of an interesting approach, even though we were, doing the basic biology of everything. And you can see in the top right-hand side, that's actually one of our students, and we decided to strip it back and go through the general basics of how everything does come together, excuse me, with puberty. I decided to do a lesson with stick-on moustaches. So all of our boys obviously knew that as you go through puberty, you start developing body hair. Well, what would that look like? So I brought in a bunch of stick-on moustaches and beards, and they kind of had a look, and they looked in the mirror. As you can see, our student wasn't really quite sure about what was going on there, but he grasped the concept. The same kind of deal with my friend over here, pin the tail on the donkey. Everybody's heard of it. What we actually did was, well, we know about body hair, where's it going to grow? So we blindfolded the students and said, okay, well, where body hair is going to go on your male, where are we going to stick it? And just by trying those very simple things, we broke down the barriers and the walls and started to encourage them to start speaking to us. And that was a great way to kind of really unwrap what it was that they were struggling with and their issues. We also dove a little bit deeper and spoke about our taboo topics. So there are things like sexuality, relationships. There's a hot topic obviously at the moment, the vote yes kind of issue. These are very current things that obviously involve our students. Not everybody's families look the same. Mine might be different. Yours might be different. You might have a carer. I might have a parent. These are all things that we wanted to talk about, discuss, to really kind of bring home the relationships and the issues that they might see as they're growing. Safe and unsafe secrets. We've seen a fantastic slide before as to just how vulnerable some of our young people can be. So we want to give them that knowledge to say, is this something that we can keep safe? Is this something we should tell someone? Obviously, masturbation, public and private. Where can you get it out? Where can't you get it out? Very simple, but at the same time, a concept that needs to be covered and reiterated. And also really being quite vigilant with chargeable and criminal sexually based offences. If you aren't very clear with the rules, then especially with disabilities like autism, they're not 100% sure. If you leave a grey area, then they're going to find it. So no does mean no.
So we kind of we talked a lot about families and how we're all different. If we were living in a world that we were all the same, it would just be boring. And so we got the children to be like in the driver's seat. They were able to bring in photos of their family. They also looked at other people, different families of other people. They found families in magazines. They made families out of the people you can see in the photo. We had examples of what families might be. They're different. And yeah, I might move along now actually. Okay, that's it.
And our main pedagogy, pretty much with this program, was even if they had a picture in front of me and they labelled their testicle as their eye and their toe as their nose, we can deal with that kind of stuff. What I did want to bring home 110% was consent. And I can guarantee if you walked into our classroom or anywhere onto our school campus and said, what is the one thing you need to know? Consent is the top thing. And as far as I was concerned in that was a massive, massive victory.
Okay, we also looked at establishing relationships, how your body might feel if you have feelings for someone, how to establish this relationship, what's an okay way to go about starting a relationship, what's not okay. So we spent some time looking at YouTubes, we used pictures, and just got some conversations happening around different relationships. Skip to that one, yeah.
We also kind of encompassed a lot more of the looking after your body and listening to what it is that your body's actually telling you. There's a very big difference between your day-to-day hygiene and getting ready for a special occasion. We're learning about our relationships. Something like, I like your boobs, probably isn't the best thing to say to someone. So we kind of worked around those kinds of things in different languages. How to go on a date, how to plan for these kinds of things. We were actually really lucky, we had a ball coming up. So I had to take about 15 or 16 or 16 students, took them into our pool facility area and I said, right, you're getting ready. What do you need to do? And that was interesting in itself. But it was learning how to shave or the concept of razors, toothbrushes, deodorant. Boys smell. Girls smell too, but boys definitely smell. You need to really bring home these kinds of concepts because no one's going to want to date you if you smell. So it's really kind of going through that and also stripping back to STD health, regular checkups, all this kind of stuff, and really giving them that info.
We mentioned this earlier on, but we really wanted to work with some, visually attractive and lots of tactile resources, so that they weren't just sitting and it wasn't boring. We wanted them to love coming to Boys Club, and the hype that they had around the school was great. Actually, I used to walk past and they used to say to me, "Oh, no, Miss Johnson, no, she can't know. Boys only, Boys Club." So it was good little banter, and the kids did wonderful things, really having fun with it, and it just, our main, we just really had to think outside the square to get these boys really engaged, and that was tricky at times, but it was a really, really fun way to get the message across. And just on sort of finishing off, we did run a girls' club as well. The reason why we sort of got really into the boys' club is there was just that real need for it at our school, and the response we had from these teenage boys was just mind-blowing. And so it was really great for me, sort of being on the outside, seeing the progression and seeing what they were learning. So I was helping planning, and I just wasn't in the boys' club. So it was really, really great to see, getting all the photos back and hearing the stories of what was happening inside that safe zone.
Yeah, and just on that as well, the big part, and I think the real driving force behind this particular program is that they took ownership. On one of our first slides, there was a little card that was their Boys Club ID. That was your admittance in. You needed to have that to get into Boys Club. That's how we knew that you belonged here. And by them actually taking responsibility for their area, they made it safe. And so that obviously opened us up to be able to give them the information and anything that they wanted to discuss with us as well. So thanks very much.
Oh yeah, I didn't know whether we ran over time.
What was the time frame for delivery? How long did you run it for? How long?
Yeah, it was an hour each week, and it was for the two teams. Yeah, for the year. So it was roughly about an hour. In that time, there were lots of different concepts. So, for example, that day when they were getting ready, that was personal hygiene. We then kind of encompassed that in with STIs, doctors' checkups, all that kind of stuff. And then in some situations, if we were talking about relationships, obviously that could split in a couple of different ways. So we could talk about families, friends, going on a date, and also on their levels as well.
Within that hour, there was lots of breaking it down into different sections. No one else? Oh, yep.
Sorry, was that an optional thing for them, or were they?
Good question. Good question. We had a couple of students that really, really needed some sexual education, and there was one in particular, and he just would not go. Absolutely would not go. And so we didn't force it because we didn't want him to feel that, it was something that he hated going, he was made to do it, and wanted him to resent it. He sort of came in every now and then, he listened what was happening out in the yard, but he never attended a whole session. It was just like another lesson. It was just like their maths or English. So we never said, oh, you don't have to go. But obviously if the student wasn't feeling comfortable and they had expressed that, then yeah, there were options for them. But there was only that one student that didn't go, and the rest of them were so curious to see what was going on behind those four walls. So yes, we had lots of boys attending. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Julia and Blake. That was fantastic. Some really innovative ideas, challenging diversity, and yeah, it's great. Well done. Our next presenter is Katie Howes from Presbyterian Ladies College, and Katie's going to talk about the ruler approach, a whole school approach to social and emotional learning.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Yes, my name is Katie Howes. I am the Wellbeing and Junior School Coordinator at Presbyterian Ladies College. And we're in a sort of a lucky position that we've been able to have me having a designated role of focusing on wellbeing within the junior school. We also have within the secondary school as well. A couple of years ago, the main focus was academics, but the past few years has become intertwined with developing students' wellbeing. So this is a big transition, a big movement for us. Oh, it hasn't really worked. The slideshow shouldn't be looking like that, but that's okay. These are some of the, what we call levers, and different areas that we're focusing on. So looking at framework, staff training, pastoral care, all focusing on wellbeing. The thing that I'm primarily focusing on is curriculum. It's good this slide has worked. Okay, we use a strength model when we're focusing on wellbeing and developing emotions. So the strength model is developed by Professor Lee Waters from the University of Melbourne. You can see across the top it stands for strengths, emotions, awareness, relationships, coping and habits. So what we're looking for when we're implementing various programs is to make sure that they're touching at least a few of these headings. Now what we found was that the ruler program, which I'm going to be talking to you about, hits most of these. It doesn't hit all of them, but it hits the majority. So you can see ruler is in the top right hand corner. That's being used from year 1 through to year 12 across the junior school and the senior school, but we also use a variety of other programs as well. So we have Komochis in the early years for pre-kindy, kindy and pre-primary, and positive detectors runs across both schools, and then we tap into different programs on a needs basis. Now ruler was developed by Yale Emotional Centre for Intelligence, and it's an acronym, which you can see down the side. It's not ruler, getting that old wooden thing out and threatening people with it. So it's all about emotions. You can see the R is recognising emotions, understanding causes and consequences of emotions, labelling emotions, expressing emotions, and regulating them as well. So emotions, emotions, emotions. Okay, there are 4 parts to the ruler approach. And with the 4 parts, it is an approach. It's not like a series of lessons, but there are 4 specific lessons that we follow to introduce each of the 4 anchors. We introduce them in a sequential way, so we start with charter, mood meter, meta moment, and blueprint initially, but when the girls have been exposed to it over a few years, although you'll still do a charter, you'll just be tapping into all the different anchors. Will make a bit more sense when I go through them. Okay, so the anchor is a working document that you work collaboratively with students to make. For any teachers who are here, you'll know that one of the first things we do at the beginning of the year is develop a set of essential agreements or class rules. And primarily they're all about behaviours we want to see. So how a ruler is different, and with the charter is we're looking at emotions you want to feel in the classroom. So we do a lot of brainstorming, a lot of words sorting about different kinds of feelings and emotions, categorising them into comfortable and uncomfortable, and from there we work on which emotions do we want to have in this classroom. So we do a lot of work around that, and then kind of by just doing lots of different activities, we focus on 6 of the ones that are most popular in the classroom. So for example, if you want to feel respected, if that was one of the ones that was identified by the students, we'd say, I want to feel respected. Then we look at how are we going to do that. So I want to feel respected. In order to feel respected, I will share my ideas thoughtfully. I will listen to other people's opinions and ideas. I will treat people how I want to be treated. So it tells you what the emotion is and then how you're going to achieve that. There is also another side to it where there's sort of repercussions if people aren't following the charter as well. And we get the children to sign off on it as well. But the big thing is that children are getting a really good experience of the language of emotions. The second anchor is the mood meter, and you can see it has 4 quadrants. I'm not sure if you can see down the axis. One is on the left side is energy, and along the bottom, pleasantness. So what we're doing here is we're looking and we're labelling different ways we feel within the daytime. So if we're looking at high energy, high pleasantness, we may be feeling excited, exhilarated. If we're looking at red, which would be high energy, high unpleasantness, we're looking at feelings and emotions that are anger, frustration, fury. Green is still high pleasantness, medium pleasantness, heading towards low energy, so feeling calm, relaxed. Blue, it's along the unpleasantness drop side, but low energy, so it may be disappointed, guilty. And what we do with this, the girls all have different ways of presenting it. So some classes have a huge mood meter in their classroom, and their girls plot how they're feeling at different times of the day. In my class, you can see on the photograph, there's a couple of girls working, and you can see a little mood meter on their table. They just have like a bead with a bit of blue tack on it, and during the day they move their little bead around so I can see what's going on, how they're feeling. The really good thing about it is it really makes you as a teacher tap into how they're feeling. You can just sort of walk around and say, oh my gosh, someone's in the red, or they've been in the red for quite a while, how can we improve on this? They need to chat. And a huge part about this is that if someone is, for example, in the yellow zone, they've been out at playtime and they're really hyper excited, they come back in, they're doing maths, how do we get them out of the yellow zone and into a green zone? They need to be calm and in control and able to follow instructions. So we do a lot of work around shifting around the different quadrants. The next step is the meta moment, and as someone who was trialling this last year, I tried the meta moment. I try it on a daily basis. It's really hard, and it is that very small time between when you have a trigger, something irritates you or makes you feel uncomfortable, and how you react. Because what tends to happen is that our brains are just kind of wired and we just tend to react the same way. So with the meta moment, something happens, you have a trigger, and where your heart's pounding, and it's recognising those different feelings, but having some deep breaths. The key is visualising your best self, and what would your best self do in this situation, and how are we going to fix this problem. So this, for me, trying it out, even coming home after work to my own family, just preparing myself that you need to visualise your best self, and what would my best self do with that. The last one is the blueprint, and the blueprint is about developing empathy, and it's all about conflict management. So that when there are problems, which absolutely there are, we encourage the girls and work with the girls to look at it from the other person's point of view. We have a sheet that we fill out, and it's kind of like an A4. One side is questions for one student who's involved in the conflict, and one is for the other side, and we sit down and work with them. Why do you think they did this? How do you feel about it? And then by working with the other person, we can sort of develop empathy and understanding for why they did what they did and sort of the repercussions of it. We're not giving that person an excuse for their behaviour, but sometimes it lets you tap into, oh, they were doing that because they were feeling like this, or they had a bad morning. And also with the mood meter too, sometimes that's come up where they said, well, I saw they were in the red zone this morning. Okay, well, if you saw they were in the red zone, do you think it was a good idea to go and snatch their snack off them? No. So just sort of working on using the different anchors all together. That's pretty much it. But one thing, if you're interested in finding out more about it, please don't hesitate to contact me. We're the first school to use Ruler in WA, so that's quite good. And I've shared the Ruler approach with a number of different schools, and it looks like a few others are getting on board. There is an app, the Mood Meter app, that you might like to download, and it is the quadrant, where you get to plot how you're feeling at different times of the day. And then it gives you ideas of how you can get out of it as well, and also for tracking how you're feeling. Okay, so there you go. Thank you. Any questions? We're all hungry. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Katie. That was really interesting. I think I might go and download that Mood Meter app. It sounds pretty good. Thank you.